Hello, friends. Have you ever watched a movie, you have an initial reaction, and then you realize you were totally wrong? I am not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. We reflect, we learn, we grow. Okay, so when we came out of the theater after seeing Alien Romulus, I was telling my honey that I wish the third act of the movie was as strong as the first half. The more I think about it and rewatch the movie, the more I realize I was so wrong. Hey there, movie lovers. Welcome back. It's your movie buddy here, ready to get into the next movie on the shortening list of movies that I need to catch up on. I posted another poll to the community tab, and as you can tell, one movie won by an absolute landslide, which I was honestly not expecting. I was already working on the Trap episode last week because that was the next movie on the list, so I just decided to finish that one up and then post both episodes this week to make up for lost time. If you're looking for detailed plot breakdowns, you won't find them here, but stick around for my spoiler-free thoughts and honest opinions, usually on the latest releases, but right now I'm just trying to get back on track, and I am getting back on track. If you're here with me on YouTube, you can find timestamps in the video description to jump straight to the sections that you're most interested in. New reviews drop every Friday, and as you can tell, the occasional Saturday when my time management is at an all-time low. So hit that subscribe button on YouTube and follow on Spotify to stay updated. Any TikToks I mention will be linked in the description below, and there are so many links this time around, you guys. So grab your popcorn, grab your emotional support synthetic, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, and let's get into today's episode on Alien Romulus. 20 years after the Nostromo incident of the first film, Rain and her adopted synthetic brother Andy join a group of young space colonizers led by the former's ex-boyfriend Tyler to retrieve cryostasis tubes from the now derelict Renaissance, unaware that they will come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. As always, I want to get into the themes of the film, or at least my take on it. There is so much here, so bear with me if I start to ramble. I am going to try to focus on just one theme. I am aware of the themes of sexual violence, but to be honest, I just prefer not to talk about that. But I would highly recommend looking into it if you're interested, because this is such a strong theme in the franchise and it is handled very well. With that out of the way, I have to mention Jay Stoops on TikTok. She beautifully covered several themes, including the crew already being dead because these characters are suppressed by a corporation and their best chance of survival is going up against a xenomorph. She goes into the fact that this is an immigrant story and the idea of AI and humanity. Alien Romulus is about leaving the life you know for a better life, a better opportunity. Weyland-Yutani has the entire crew basically trapped for life with no way out, and the xenomorphs, along with their personal and internal struggles, serve as physical and emotional hurdles they must overcome to make changes in their lives. Additionally, the film emphasizes the fact that corporations don't care about people and they exploit their workers. This is present throughout the entire franchise, and it's a reflection of society. Weyland prioritizing the xenomorph over human life highlights corporate capitalism, and the fight against the aliens focuses on the conflict between humanization and dehumanization in the workplace. Now, this is where we would usually talk about character development, but instead I want to talk about the mythology. There is so much here, so pardon me, but I'm going to strip it back a lot. Very briefly, let's talk about Romulus and Remus. I was vaguely aware of the myth before watching the movie, and I was wondering how it fits in. After all my Googling, I think I have an idea, but let's see. In Roman mythology, Romulus and Remus are twin brothers who were the sons of Rhea, Sylvia, a Vestal virgin, or plainly put, a priestess, and the god of war, Mars. As infants, they were abandoned by the Tiber River, but were saved by a she-wolf who nursed them. Later, they were raised by a shepherd. When they grew up, Romulus and Remus decided to build a city, but they couldn't agree on where to build it, leading to Romulus killing Remus. Romulus then founded Rome on Palatine Hill and became the first king. This myth symbolizes the strength and martial origins of Rome. Now, initially, I wondered how this myth connects to or informs the story, But the more I think about it, I think it's important to keep in mind that the movie could mirror the mythology or subvert it. Moving on to the practical effects, and I have to say, I was living. Incredible. Surreal. How incredibly refreshing is it to have so much of this movie be practical? Some things honestly didn't need to be practical, like that one specific heart-sinking practical element during the ending. If you know, you know. That was horrifying. There is a practical quality to the franchise that I do love, and I saw someone on TikTok mention that in earlier films in the franchise, the xenomorphs do look like a person in a suit, but Romulus manages to take that practical suit and marry it with modern technology. It's damn near seamless. You can tell they're real, a person in a suit or a puppet and so on, but the practical effects, special effects, coupled with the lighting truly bring these creatures to life. I know, I don't talk about critiques until later in the episode, but I want to mention one I read where someone said that the facehuggers looked good for the most part, but a few were obviously animatronics. Honestly, I would rather have a well-made animatronic than to have CGI in its place. The attention to detail in this movie is fantastic. It feels like it fits right into place in the continuity. I love the familiar tech and the new tech that doesn't feel out of place. It all lends to the credibility that this movie is unmistakably from the Alien universe, even without seeing the iconic facehuggers and xenomorphs. Moving on from the practical effects, if you've been here with me for a while, then you know I love any shred of world building a story gives us. I really love the opening of the film because not only are we getting to see life in a Wayland mining colony, but we also get more of that corporate treatment of workers. This is explored in a small way that is not only impactful, but it really doubles down in a different way than we're used to seeing. This really added to the characters and their story. Additionally, we get more lore on the xenomorph's life cycle in a truly outstanding sequence. We're used to seeing the facehugger, then the chest burster, and then the fully grown xenomorph, but Romulus gives us the chrysalis. Spectacular. The scene is so incredible. The moment in the story, the score, the practical effects, you guys, I can't. We need to move on. Let's briefly talk about the story. The world building isn't in your face. It feels very organic to the story and the franchise. We get a clear understanding of the characters. Our main characters, Rain and Andy, get much more depth. We're aware of their situation and what drives them to pursue a better life. New ideas like this give us an opportunity to connect to the characters and the franchise in a different way. Sure, Alien Romulus has more than just faint echoes of previous installments, but we'll talk about that later. New ideas and elements truly set this story apart. Moving on to the performances. The performances in this movie are fantastic. I think the cast all around is really strong, and even if their characters don't get fully explored, they still manage to bring the characters to life. Further context, even if it's just a line of dialogue, informs the performance of the actors. We're gonna speed run through the crew of the Corbelan. Up front, I have to say that my girl Dora the Explorer, Isabella Merced, did not deserve any of that. She did so well in this movie as Kay, and I really love the friendship between her and Kaylee Spaney's Rain. Archie Renault as Tyler, Kay's brother, did well. I like the nuance he brought to the role, especially in moments when he interacted with Kaylee or Isabella. Spike Fern as Bjorn, I don't care, I'm not a fan. He did do a fantastic job, but I just couldn't stand the character. There wasn't enough time spent for me to care about him either. Eileen Wu makes her feature film debut in the physically demanding role of Navarro, and I was really impressed. I might have said this before, but I think it's easy to act scared, but it's something else to bring that visceral terror to the surface. She accomplished a lot with the time she had on screen, from that fear to the subtleties that inform the relationships between characters. Kaylee Spaney is fantastic. Her portrayal of Rain brings a fresh and compelling element to the film's emotional core. She does have some things about her that do feel familiar to other leading ladies in the franchise, but she also manages to come across as unique. I'm getting off track here, but what sets her apart is her relationship with David Johnson's Andy, her adopted brother. She effortlessly delivers a complex but deep relationship with Andy, which I can only imagine is made easier with how incredibly well David Johnson's acting is. Both actors elevate the movie, not just with their acting, but with their story within the story. Their chemistry is fantastic, and it's even more impressive as the movie progresses. Getting back to Johnson's acting, I think he actually stands up incredibly well to previous synthetics in the franchise. He's giving range not only in how he speaks, but his facial expressions and physical performance as well. I have to say though that I do think he looked sad a lot of the time with his eyebrows, but I know that's all intentional, but it stood out to me so much. Now, let's compare the films in the franchise. To my understanding, the Alien vs. Predator films are canon to the Predator franchise, but not to the Alien franchise. So that said, I am only keeping Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection, Prometheus, and Covenant in mind. It breathes life back into the dark retro horror that Alien excels in. It feels like it fits right into the franchise while doing some unique things. I do think if you're expecting more of what we got with Prometheus and Covenant, or if you're looking for something a little cringy or really a product of the time, then you'll be disappointed. If you're looking for more action though, this movie does check some boxes. Again, that horror in space. If you've been here with me long enough, then you know horror sci-fi, specifically horror in space, is my love, my everything. I think this movie absolutely knocked it out of the park in a way that's so reminiscent of Alien. Now, Alien is untouchable and iconic. It's more isolated and more focused. Romulus takes the best of so many of these movies and puts it all together in a way that is a lot, but in my opinion, not in a bad way. Now, let's wrap up with my final thoughts on the movie, and there are a lot. I'm trying to get through this episode as quickly as I can because I know I'm saying a lot. I'm sure by now you can figure out where I stand on this, but if you're wondering if this movie is worth your time, in my opinion, yes, this movie is absolutely worth every minute. Alien Romulus is a wildly successful return to the horror roots established by the original film. I love the look of the derelict and abandoned research station, the Renaissance. It's reminiscent of the Nostromo and the unrelenting threat of the xenomorphs. While there are plenty of slow suspense building moments, I was just as impressed by the more fast-paced moments that maintained and even heightened that tension. The pacing overall is incredibly well done, and the score and sound design are impeccable. I would say it's everything you want from the trailers and more. It's immersive, terrifying, and yes, it's scary. Okay, if you're wondering if it's like scary, I wasn't covering my eyes or trying to avoid looking at the screen at all. The movie is so gorgeous, from the stellar space shots to the practical effects, I honestly did not want to look away from the screen. Of course, every movie has its pros and cons, and naturally, people just like what they like. We're going to get into some criticisms of the movie, and I'll share my thoughts. I took notes on only a couple critiques I saw online because 1, I just really love this movie, and 2, a lot of negatives came across as kind of shallow, and those are the reviews that say this movie sucked or the acting was bad, without really getting into the why, which is fine, just not what I'm looking for. So these are the ones that I felt really had some substance to them, or I agree with them. This first comment gets into it, and this isn't even the entire comment. Average acting, nostalgia bait story with copy-paste dialogue from better Alien movies. The inclusion of lore elements from inferior prequels they wish didn't exist. Now, there's a lot to unpack there, but for the sake of time, let's focus on the nostalgia bait and the copy-paste dialogue. I do wish so much of it wasn't in the movie. I think a lot of it wasn't necessary. So to some degree, I do agree with this comment. I think some of the dialogue was distracting. I even rolled my eyes at a line that Andy delivers in the movie near the third act. The same person says the movie gets off to a slow start and it felt drawn out. They do go on to say that once the action and horror begin, the pacing is unrelenting and terrific. I feel like I've said this before in previous episodes, I generally don't feel like a buildup feels drawn out or slow. Like I said earlier, we get to see so many new things, like life in a mining colony on LV-410, and building upon one of the film's themes even more. The second and final critique I found talks about the recycled material again, and I picked this comment to talk about that more because they explain that while they appreciate the nostalgia, they felt like the movie was made almost entirely of moments from previous films, but with a different cast. I rewatched the entire franchise leading up to the release of Romulus, and I have to say that I do agree with this critique of the movie. However, I think if you haven't seen all of the previous films in the franchise, or it's been a while, this might not stand out as much. My personal issues with the movie are basically more of the same, how it repeats certain dialogue and scenes that we've seen before. For example, the moment that was in one of the trailers where the xenomorph was getting close to Rain's face and she's turning away, which is basically what happens in Alien 3. Maybe it's because I just rewatched all the movies, but moments like that felt overused. Some moments really killed the vibe, stuck out like a sore thumb, and had me rolling my eyes. Realistically, I can look past the recycled dialogue and nostalgia because I love this movie so much. Did all that drag the movie down a bit? Yes, but I was still able to get past it and enjoy the movie. What I want to talk about is something I could not get past. I don't do this often, but consider this your spoiler warning for Alien Romulus because I literally cannot explain this without spoilers. So if you do not want spoilers, please skip ahead. I'll leave a timestamp in the description so you can skip the spoilers and pick back up when we're done. But if you're staying locked in with me, let's get into it. I was glad to see Ian home again. I think this is something that further establishes the movie in the timeline. It makes it feel like it fits right in. But the CGI is appalling. We've talked about de-aging before, and I feel like it's been done well in the past, but I don't know what's going on lately. This movie is stunning. The space shots are beautiful, and the practical effects are breathtaking. So why do we have whack-looking CGI that completely takes you out of the movie? I get why the character is there. Rook is the same model as Ash. I get it. But why does he look like that? I wish they opted for more over-the-shoulder angles from behind so we didn't really have to see his face. Maybe see him through monitors more, and maybe very, very few shots of his face. Maybe less screen time for his face would have actually given them some more time to really do a more seamless job. I think if you can get past some of the horrific CGI and roll with the punches when it comes to the nostalgia and all the repeat dialogue and moments, this is a fantastic movie. Clearly, this movie is my preference, so I am willing to look past a lot because that intense claustrophobic horror has me ascending into the heavens. I love it so much, and there is so much that is done extremely well in this movie. I want to revisit the scaries for a second before we move on. This isn't a scary movie, in my opinion, but rather the suspense and tension is extremely palpable. I was holding my breath during several moments in the film that were just horrifying. It excels in that kind of terror. There are jump scares, but overall, they don't feel cheap. I read online that this movie is meant to be accessible to those who haven't seen any prior Alien films. I would agree with this, but of course you are missing out on so much context by starting with this film first. If you're new to the franchise and you're interested, I think Alien and Alien Romulus are a really good place to start. Now, of course, we are not going to get into the conclusion and outro without talking about this franchise. Let's talk about watch order, then we'll move on to my general thoughts on the franchise, how I would rank all 7 movies, and then we'll wrap up with my favorite characters. For the sake of time, we are going to breeze through this entire section with little to no explanation. In all honesty, you can move this order around a little bit, but if you want to go chronologically, you're going to want to watch Prometheus, Alien Covenant, Alien, Alien Romulus, Aliens, Alien 3, and then finally Alien Resurrection. My general thoughts on the franchise: I love it so much. Alien is one of my favorite films of all time, and it's one of 2 media properties, entertainment properties that fuels my love for sci-fi horror, specifically horror in space. The other one is the video game Dead Space. I rewatched the entire franchise, and I've been seeing so many conversations on TikTok that truly enrich these movies. They're amazing and iconic as just movies, but when you start to get into the themes and meanings, they get so much better. There's that element I mentioned before of sexual violence, which is horrific and as relevant then as it is now. I think that's something a lot of people can identify in these films, but something I'd never heard about is the magical Negro trope. Freddie's roommate on TikTok posted a few videos explaining this trope so well and how it applies to Alien Romulus. My point is, there is so much to these movies, and it's incredibly fascinating how much you can take from the franchise. Now, let's get into how I would rank every film in the franchise. I will quickly preface my list by saying that I love the deeper conversation and meaning, and I love sci-fi horror, the horror in space of Alien. That is my happy place, and as much as I love action, I love the sci-fi horror over everything else. Get mad if you like, this is all my opinion and my preference. And I actually have 2 lists, so I'll do the first one to get it out of the way. This is how I would rank every movie if I could put Prometheus and Covenant together as one complete story. Alien, Prometheus, and Alien Covenant, which I will say is overhated and underappreciated. Do not get me started. Alien Romulus or Aliens, I feel like, depending on how I feel, it could be interchanged. Alien Resurrection and Alien 3. If you're gonna rant about how Covenant and Prometheus are two separate movies and blah, 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 fine. That's what the second list is for. Alien, Alien Romulus or Aliens, Prometheus, Alien Covenant, Alien Resurrection, Alien 3. I could elaborate and I want to, but we gotta move on. We've been chit-chatting for a while, and as always, I am not sorry. I have nobody to talk to about movies like this, so if you've made it this far in the episode, thank you so much for sticking around. And when I say it means a lot to me, I really mean it. I'm gonna wrap this section up with my top 5 favorite characters in the franchise. It was meant to be a top 5, but ended up being a top 4. In no particular order, Ripley, David, Shaw, Andy, and now that I think about it, the Xenomorph totally counts, right? That's my 5th. We have a top 5 now. Honorable mentions include Hicks, Bishop, Dylan, and Call. Have you had the chance to watch Alien Romulus yet? If not, what's holding you back? Is it not your cup of tea, not your usual genre? Do you not like these movies? Or is it too scary? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts after today's episode. And if you've already watched it, I want to know your take. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Or did you fall somewhere in between? Share your thoughts, opinions, and reactions in the comments below. I am all ears. Alien Romulus is an excellent addition to the franchise. It combines that raw terror of the original with modern visuals. I cannot say enough about how this movie looks. The practical effects are incredibly well done, enhanced by modern tech and lighting. In all honesty, it's just a treat to see so many real on-set elements, especially in an era where everything is CGI. The horror elements of this movie are intense and beautifully pays homage to the franchise's roots. Yes, the Xenomorphs, chest burster, and face huggers deliver the scares, but the horror also comes from the overwhelming sense of isolation and vulnerability. The acting is fantastic. The entire cast does Terrified so well and managed to bring so much nuance to their characters with the time they have on screen. Kaylee Spaney and David Johnson steal the show and are only outshone, in my opinion, when the Xenomorphs are around. I saw a comment online that said Romulus comes off as a love letter to the franchise, and I love that. Again, there is an argument that it was too heavy-handed with the nostalgia, but taking out most of the repeated dialogue and moments that are exact and focusing on the vibes, I wholeheartedly agree. The horror, tension, terror, and themes are there, as well as action and a few wonderful and exciting surprises that I don't want to give away. It's a celebration of the franchise while also delivering a quality experience in the genre that many fans can appreciate. And those last 10 to 12 minutes, absolutely insane. The theater was dead silent and my heart dropped. Full transparency, this is specifically where I had my initial gripe that I mentioned in the intro, but the more I think about it, the scarier it gets and the more I love it. All right, you guys, before we wrap up, I want to talk about what movies I'll be sharing my thoughts on next. I was so optimistic about putting out 2 episodes last week. I didn't account for longer shifts at work and the fact that there was 0 phone signal when we went camping over the weekend. I planned to get in a few hours of writing when we were in the outside, but that did not happen. But hey, I am so close to catching up. The next movie we're going to talk about is Beetlejuice and Transformers 1. I am looking forward to seeing that movie. I had high hopes, but honestly, after seeing the trailers, I'm managing my expectations. I think it's going to be a cute and fun movie, but it looks like it's very much for the children, which kind of concerns me. For the children doesn't always mean a bad thing, but we'll see. I got tickets for an early access screening for Saturday, the same day this episode drops. So was it fun? Did we have a good time? Was it for the children? After that, I have tickets for The Wild Robot, which I'm not going to lie to you guys, I did not plan on watching, but I saw a trailer recently that said it's the greatest DreamWorks movie ever. A word? Because DreamWorks made the animated masterpieces How to Train Your Dragon and Kung Fu Panda, so that is a very big claim. And I'm not gonna lie, it worked on me. I got. I saw that quote in the trailer and I immediately opened the Cinemark app and bought tickets. Now, the last movie I have tickets for is Joker Folie à Deux, and I'm not looking at early reviews. I do my best to avoid reviews, but there's some buzz about the changes to Harley's character, so I'm interested to see what they did. I also really love musicals, which I know is something that people took issue with. I don't mind that at all, so we'll see about that one in October. After I catch up, I can finally get back to the podcast exclusive episodes, and I'm very excited to drop more after about, 6 months? Yeah, about 6 months or so. It's been a little while, just a little bit. Anyway, if there's a movie you're excited about and you want me to talk about, let me know in the comments below or send me a message on Instagram at A.Rocket.Review. Your suggestions are always welcome, and I love hearing from you. But for now, a huge thank you to everyone who has stuck around with me to the end of the video. Last time I shared my thoughts on Longlegs. It's been a whole 2 weeks. I know, but I didn't want to fall behind even more, so I posted a poll to the community tab on YouTube, and so many of you guys bamboozled me and voted for Alien Romulus. But I was already more than halfway finished with the episode on M. Night Shyamalan's Trap, so I decided to finish that episode as well. So if you haven't checked out one or both of those episodes yet, they are just a click away. If you're watching today's episode on YouTube, you can find the links to both in the top right corner. And for my podcast listeners, both episodes are available for you as well. Your feedback is always appreciated, so please share your thoughts on YouTube in the comments below. And if you're listening on the Spotify app, they added a comment section, so let me know what you're thinking. Do you agree with my take? Do you have a different opinion? Do you think Alien Romulus is the best movie in the franchise? Do you think it lived up to the hype? Do you think the copy-paste dialogue and moments were too much? Where would you rank it in the Alien franchise? Who are your favorite characters? Let me know in the comments and let's get the conversation going. If you're enjoying the content on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an update. For those who prefer on-the-go listening, maybe while you're in the car, maybe while you're at work or getting ready for your day, follow me on Spotify so you don't miss out on our podcast exclusive episodes that are on their way. And hey, if you're on Instagram, follow me at A.Rocket.Review for sneak peeks and behind the scenes content. And that's really just me going to the theater and watching movies at home. Feel free to hop into my DMs with movie suggestions or just to chat about films. Your support honestly means so much to me. And your engagement helps our community grow. Whether it's on YouTube, the podcast, or on Instagram, your presence is greatly appreciated. So until next time, spread positivity, be safe, take care of yourself, and happy movie watching. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.